Who doesn't love movies? If you don't love movies like we love movies, you're wrong. The sports ball people have their fantasy leagues, but what about us film nerds? The Fantasy Movie League was born. And each week, you choose 8 movies for our personal cineplexes and compete in leagues for the highest grossing box office total. Of course, each cineplex has to build their lineup within a budget, with each movie costing a certain amount. So, let the FML chatter begin! Hello everyone, welcome back. Happy belated American birthday and happy belated Canada Day to those who celebrate as well. You are listening to the Fantasy Movie League chatter for week 5/6 in the Fantasy Movie League. He is still Chris, I am still Alex. We still thank you for joining us and finding ways for you to enjoy maybe some downtime, some uptime, vacation time. Who knows? You've got some time to spend with us. We're glad you're able to do so and find out what's going on in a theater near you. How was your 4th of July week, Chris?
It was great. Family, a little Disney Springs. Saw your wife. Got to eat some great food in the park.
That's good. Well, I get to see my wife every day, so anyone else that gets to see my wife, aside from that, I think that's always a bonus for everyone. So that's great. I'm glad you're able to enjoy time with her. I missed out on seeing y'all. I was too busy working,
making that money. I was too busy spending the money.
No, well, it's different. You know, it's summer. You're on a non-work schedule essentially for like that's that teacher life. I know it's tough, but
hey, we do 12 months of work in 10 months, so you know what?
Whoa, show off. Speaking of showing off, we've got news and information as to who has done well in the Week 5 box office and who did not fare so well in their weeks of grossing the monies. I'm simply speaking on movies on this part, and we didn't expect some of these films to do as poor or as great as they did, but it certainly changed the tide of how well some of our players did in our own completing the Shelf Fan League here on Fantasy Movie League.
You can join by fantasymovieleague.com using the password SHELFNERDS with a capital S and a capital N.
Yes. That's an S at the beginning and an N in the middle. You can leave the little S on the end. Little. I think that's
Thank you for that.
You know. So they haven't officially finalized the numbers for Week 5. However, at this time, they are projecting that Despicable Me 3 is sitting atop the heap, and Baby Driver has way surpassed Hollywood's expectations and FML's expectations possibly with its debut, and The House certainly hurting in terms of how poor it debuted this week. But we will start from the bottom, and then we'll get up to the top. I'm not going to make the Drake quote. I'm just not going to do it. I'm better than that. At least right now, I'm better than that.
Are you?
For now, I am. I'll hold on to some pride and.
You've earned pride and celebration this week. But let's start with 15, which is probably our last week. We're gonna talk about Beatrice
at dinner. Yes, $1.119 million in weekend gross. Still gaining theaters, but only in 683 theaters across the U.S. of A. Down 36.4%, so its meteoric rise has now been cut short, and I'm sure there are very good reasons why. Captain Underpants down 74%, down to 1.1 million. I'm pretty sure we're done with Captain Underpants. We need to wash that out. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 down to almost 50% from previous week, 1.5. The Big Sick finally getting some more screens, as I've been hoping it was going to do. It's going to be a wide release this week and selectable for players here in Week 6. The Big Sick did come out with 1.65 million in weekend gross, being in only 71 theaters, and that is going to get even larger this week with its wide release coming this 4th of July weekend.
Yeah, I saw a trailer on TV, and I was like, okay, Alex will be happy, and it looked pretty funny.
It's got Ray Romano, so I don't know if that's the only reason it's funny, but it's got a lot of fun things that I like about it. A lot of great actors from series like Silicon Valley and Comme Lagir, who is very funny. It's actually a very personal story, and we'll cover the movie in a little bit in depth, but we'll get a little closer look at the Big Sick just moments from now. Stay tuned. Anyway, All Eyes on Me dropping 5 spots down to 1.8 million. Dead
Dropping
Men
hard.
Yeah, like Tupac did on a street corner in Vegas.
Oh! Too soon?
No, it's been years, dude. I've walked on that corner many times, and I've survived, so I don't know what his problem was, but that's not here nor there.
Oh boy.
Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, Signs of Life, maybe, only down 53% to 2.5 million. The Mummy, Stranger Signs of Life, $2.9 million in weekend gross. Both of those, by the way, all 3 of those movies, losing at least 750 to 1,200 theaters overall. So you might see that number continue to drop, and that's an easy avoid despite the value play here coming into Week 6 if it's still pickable and available. The Beguiled went from 4 theaters to 674 theaters and increased its weekend gross by over 1,200%.
Very nice. Jump from spot 22 to 8. Very nice rise.
Not bad at all. This is another. I'm not sure if this is the same coworker that saw Baywatch, but another coworker's scuttlebutt at my office space said, I took my husband to see The Beguiled, and he felt like there was so much estrogen flowing through him, he needed to go to a Lilith Fair concert. Again, not my words, the words of a spouse, of a coworker. I simply say to him, sir, we're sorry. Go watch a really good man movie this weekend. Like, go watch Caddyshack. Go watch an Arnold Schwarzenegger film like Predator. That will make you feel more like a man.
There you
go. 47 meters down. Again, only a very small percentage loss, 36%, albeit $4.5 million in weekend gross. Again, because it was the bonus performer last week, it suffered based on its price per theater or screen, if you will. So maybe a disappointing effort in that regard, but still dwindling slowly, if anything.
I think it's going to drop a lot more this weekend.
It will lose a lot of theaters this weekend. I agree. So I would now start steering away from that even more than I did last week of its overinflated screen price. Debuting at number 6 is The House. Will Ferrell, Amy Poehler, like we talked it up last week. They did not get enough love from folks going to the theaters. $8.73 million is their current estimated weekend gross. Only 3,100 theaters, and I'm not sure that's the real reason why it suffered.
Yeah, see our conversation from last week about Will Ferrell.
Yeah, and I think critically it got destroyed, didn't it?
Oh, really?
Like, it did not fare well with the folks.
Yeah, 20% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yuck.
Not good at all. Good.
It's generally failing grade in most worlds of academia and evaluation.
Rotten Tomatoes says this: The House squanders a decent premise and a talented cast on thin characterizations and a shortage of comedic momentum. So I think you're right. All the little things that could have been funny were in the trailer. Yeah. And you even said the trailer seemed forced to you.
Yeah, I'm watching the jokes in the trailer, and I'm just like, okay. Okay. Ooh. Yeah. Like that's literally, I think, a play-by-play recap of how I watched the House trailer about 2.5-3 months ago when I first saw it come out. Disappointing, to say the least, and it kind of goes back to our really depressing conversation we had in regards to maybe the end of the wave of the Will Ferrell movement.
Well, just of his current shtick. Here's an interesting comment from Richard Roper from the Chicago Sun-Times. He says, there's more character development and more believable plot turns in a typical SNL skit than in this movie.
Gosh. Holy crumbs. He usually doesn't he's not as savage with his rips. But that
was
one
pretty
is
savage.
Just scarring. Yeah, that's like, that needs some stitches. Oh my gosh.
I'll get my wife on that.
Yeah, she can handle that, you know. If anything, if you need more insight as to how Will Ferrell is maybe feeling in his life, This is a shameless plug for the Nerdist podcast. He appeared with Chris Hardwick a few weeks ago. I listened to that, and he's just a very just like meh, whatever kind of dude, and he's just more trying to make sure his kids aren't turning into snot-nosed Hollywood brats, I feel like.
Oh, that's a good endeavor. Okay, keep making the bad movies. Be a good follower. That's cool.
Yeah. Enjoy your summer house in Sweden, Mr. Farrell. I think his wife is Swedish. That's why they have it.
Ah, I see.
Anyway, that's not here nor there. It's in Sweden, to be honest with you. Cars 3 dropping 2 spots, down almost 60% to 9.6 million. I feel this
What a crash.
It's starting to crash. Yes, it's if anything, it's a yellow flag in the world of NASCAR, which means caution, slow down. I think that's what that means. So far, worldwide gross has it as $176 million, over 70%, almost 70% of that coming domestically. And I think for the world of Disney itself, they're going to rely more on the monies being made from the merchandise than the actual box office gross itself. So I don't know how the studio's seeing it, but for our sake of the game, I would really beg each and every one of you to avoid it if you can, especially with what is happening this coming weekend and how it's all sort of it feels like a coming together of a weekend, if anything.
Hey, I've been pointing to this for a while.
Yes. Well, we got to keep him on the leash. Got to keep him in. Got to keep him listening. Can't just give it to him now. We got this. Number 4, down 2 spots. No thanks to me and my wife, who went to go see it this weekend, was Wonder Woman.
Yay!
$15.7 million. Yes, down 529 theaters overall, but still plugging along in double-digit numbers. And again, this is the question mark weekend we hinted to last week is how long does this stay forward? I think we knew it was going to be in that double-digit range, so that we were grateful for that. And I helped everybody else's screens by going to the movie.
Especially mine, yeah, but didn't help enough.
Yeah, I think my wife wanted to go see it because she picked it on 7 screens.
Oh, yeah.
And we brought our parents, so that helped too. At least we brought my parents. I don't think we brought her. No, we didn't bring her parents. We brought my parents.
Wonderful.
But yeah, I think that helped the 15.7 million. Just the 4 of us going, we contributed about $400,000.
So quick review. What'd you think?
Very good, very entertaining, and as you mentioned, it's not as over the top in terms of its the bro bashing stylings of the previous Marvel comic book movie films of the past.
Or you mean DC though, right?
No, not just DC, because Marvel has done that with Iron Man versus Captain America Civil War. It's done that with Iron Man and what was the Don Cheadle character? Oh gosh, it's gonna
War
bother
Machine.
me. Yes, thank you, War Machine.
What's interesting to me is when I left Wonder Woman, I'm like, that felt kind of like a Marvel movie. Like if DC and Marvel movies had a baby, it kind of felt like Wonder Woman. Because it wasn't so dark and overbearing and CGI heavy punching.
It got there towards the end, though.
Oh, well, yeah. Most superhero movies in the third act have that.
Yeah, understandably so when you're dealing with 2 members of Greek mythology fighting against each other in the 21st century.
So you previously asked if Guardians was better, or if Wonder Woman's better than Guardians. Where do you stand on that now? I said no. I said they're the same. They're different. They're just awesome.
Oh man. There are parts of Guardians for me that are far more entertaining and more value for me in terms of the musical diversity and the comedic levels, in terms of how funny it does reach to get and doesn't feel like it's like overextending itself to do it. Wonder Woman was, I feel, more dramedy than it attempts to truly be comedic with a very good, healthy side of action. That I feel like is somehow the Guardian sort of. I feel like it's like a surf and turf plate, if you will. Guardians is a surf and turf plate of steak and seafood, of steak and lobster, while Wonder Woman is more, I would say, if you will, pork. No, not pork. That's not good. That's not a good entree. I'll say it's like like a tuna steak with a great side of like roasted vegetables doesn't add up to it.
I
But
think
no,
I'm getting lost in these metaphors.
no, it was good. I'm not saying it was bad, but it was like a really good, nice seared tuna steak with like a very good seasonal side that made you feel very refreshed.
But you're not getting a variety of flavors like you will with Guardians.
No, 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 no. And the steak and seafood thing that I was talking about with Guardians is that you get a lot of very good quality with a very good comic side and a very good action side that comes together with a very good story. Wonder Woman, you kind of had a very good understanding of what the story should be. It just gave you background to future potential movies involving said woman.
I think you're right. I think with Guardians, like, you love all the characters. Like,
Right.
they're awesome. And any of them, if you spend any time with any of the characters, you're like, all right, this is awesome. With Wonder Woman, I think one of the weaknesses is those background of the team. They're kind of cool, but you only get a hint of them, and you don't really spend enough time with them to really feel like, oh, I love these guys. They're awesome.
Right. And I think it's because the focus of the story is on Diana and
Sure.
how she learns to accept what her role is in the world now that she has left her fellow Amazonians.
Which the Amazonian part, man, that was some of the best stuff in my opinion. I loved when they were on the island of Themyscira.
That was cool. Yes, that was cool. Very fun stuff.
Okay, moving on.
Number 3, dropping 2 spots, was Transformers The Last Night, down 62%, following what is pretty much a par for the course drop-off in big blockbuster
Yeah, but this is worse
movies.
than usual.
Because it started with a very healthy opening weekend, if you will, 44 million. So to go down already below 20, I'm not saying I'm surprised, but I expected it to drop even further, to be honest. So this is a mild dropping, and it actually
Somehow it
gained
added.
theaters. Yeah,
who didn't have Transformers in their theater when it first opened? That is funny. Baby
knows?
Driver. Baby Driver driving
Number
your
2.
success this week.
Yes, 21 million projected in weekend gross, a budget of 34 million. So it still has a little bit of summertime to make that up. But
Oh, it will.
again, I couldn't understand for the life of me how they priced this movie so low, and the smart players, the sharps, if you will, as we like to call. In the betting world, the sharps are the so-called experts who put the big money and on what they think is a wrong play at the sport lines of certain sporting events. And then the squares are the general public who will just throw money immediately on what they think is the obvious favorite, regardless of how handicapped they are in a certain score line. I'd have to go into a whole nother podcast as to how that truly works, but that's like the only easy answer as to how I think the experts decided to look at Baby Driver and just throw that en masse, if you will.
Because the perfect cinema had 8 Baby Drivers.
We're not telling our players to go pick 8 of the same movie, almost ever, and this is evidence of that because not even I did that, and my 3 helped me kind of claw my way to yet another week win, giving me 3 here in this summer season. It's not official yet, so I'm not going to go ahead and get on my high horse and ride off into the sunset, but I'm getting the saddle on. I'm getting my boots and spurs on, and I'm putting on my hat and getting my lasso ready. That's all. So that came out $21 million. I still need to see it. Hopefully that's something I get to do sooner rather than later. Because it just looked entertaining from the outgo, from trailers, from in-depth views of the movie itself. So, and the stars.
I mean, just knowledge that Edgar Wright made it. He's saying that he's willing to do Baby Driver number 2.
Awesome.
Which he doesn't do sequels. So
No,
that's
not
cool.
really. No, that's not his thing. But I'd like for it to be his thing. So, again, outperforming Baby Driver comes in at number 2, $21 million in projected weekend gross. Still falling way behind Despicable Me 3, which came out with 72.4 projected weekend gross, here as of the recording here on the day after the 4th of July, which mathematically makes it the 5th of July. I
Thank you.
know.
That helped this English teacher.
I'm trying to, just help everybody out with bringing it to an easy level to understand for all. But I'm using crap metaphors. You're right. $72.4 million, well under its worth for its box office price. I definitely think that hurt a lot of folks who were attempting to use that
Yeah, it was so
in their
costly.
play.
But this is about what we predicted. We predicted around 70 million opening.
Yes.
So, it makes sense. It drops below what previous entries in this franchise did in their opening weekends. But
Yep. I mean, I'm happy for those who picked it, and it's because it didn't completely underwhelm like I thought it would. But at the same time, I don't know how much. Like, if it's going on that same 50 to 65% drop off, it certainly doesn't bode well for it as a whole. Because it's going to drop to about 43 million if it's lucky, based on just 60%. I'm feeling like its ceiling from here on in on any given weekend is only going to be $40 million.
it'll have a bigger drop next week than that.
It's tough. I
Yeah.
mean, this week is going to hurt it. The next week following it isn't going to be as bad. It could be.
Spider-Man is going to have a long life.
Yeah, the many iterations of Spider-Man have given him a long life. I think we're on to the third different Spider-Man actor in less than 15 years. Tobey Maguire.
I think they got it right this time.
But I'm sitting there saying to myself, Tobey Maguire is sitting there like, hi, why not me? So I think it's the fifth different either talent or actor to play Spider-Man. Names have included, as I mentioned, Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield. And in the animated series, you've had not only Drake Bell, but also one Neil Patrick Harris. Fun fact. So, Despicable Me 3, $72.4 million in its opening weekend, current estimated projection. I'm surprised by its budget of only $80 million. For some reason, I thought it would be much higher.
Agreed, yeah.
So it's going to, of course, hit that in week 2. Unless there's just an absolute cataclysmic collapse.
Oh, it'll hit it. It'll hit it.
So now this brings us into going into the coming weekend, beginning this Friday of the 7th. If you're listening to this on Thursday, you have until noon Eastern Friday to get your selections in for week 6. So as we mentioned, about 56 million times, Spider-Man Homecoming, being released by Sony and Columbia, not Disney, despite it being a Marvel franchise and a Marvel character. This is being released on Sony Columbia Pictures, a PG-13 rating. Yes, you could say it's action-adventure. That makes sense. But Spider-Man Homecoming starring Tom Holland as the new Spider-Man. You may remember Tom Holland from eclipsing movies such as The Lost City of Z, Captain America Civil War, and The Impossible back in 2012.
Okay.
Ewan McGregor, Naomi Watts. I think it's like a family on vacation, and there's like some huge natural disaster that happens when they're vacationing.
And back to Spider-Man.
Yep,
so
exactly.
I love Tom Holland. Tom Holland, as time goes on, I like this guy. He's just so gung-ho and energetic and enthusiastic about being Spider-Man. And his age makes him capable of being Spider-Man for a long time.
You would hope that he gets to continue on more than 3 to 2 movies, like some Spiders in the past.
Kevin Feige has said he has a 5-movie arc.
Ooh. Does that include Captain America Civil War, or is this just talking Spider-Man movies? Okay, so we're in
he has
5.
He has 3 Spider-Man movies that's making a trilogy of its own, and then I guess 2 Avenger movies,
Okay.
Civil War and then Infinity War coming up.
Tom Holland, now 21 years old, of course, growing up in the United Kingdom, making this the second British person to be a American Spider-Man.
Cool.
Just saying. Just saying. They just want to get back into America somehow, even though we took their colony from them 231 years ago. No big deal.
We're friends again. It's okay.
Oh.
Anyway, what are your thoughts about this opening?
For the record,
obviously we have a 3-day choosing window now.
Yes,
for
and this we will have to start explaining in our FML 101 of the week. When there is tremendously large expectation premieres such as Spider-Man: Homecoming, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Beauty and the Beast, things of those movies of great expectation, if you will, they will go ahead and have them be available as Friday, Saturday, and Sunday individual selections for your screens at your cinema. For instance, the Friday showing of Spider-Man is $501 this week. The Saturday showing is $448, and the Sunday showings are $339, which basically means that they're not going to combine the 3 days at all. They're simply going to go by the individual takes of those 1 days in each of their tabulations, which almost behooves you, no matter what, to try to take Friday, if in some instances, and hope that Saturday doesn't outshine it and make up the best of what you can, dollars-wise, in your screens.
Yeah, because you can't choose all three. You just wouldn't.
Oh, no. No, that's not economically sound, as the kids like to say. Well,
but you can choose Friday and Saturday and still have a little bit left over.
Yeah.
Which might be my play.
Ooh. I don't know about that.
But don't listen to me because I've lost 2 weeks in a row. So,
I mean,
listen to Alex.
You throw those two Friday, Sunday out there. You still have over 6 screens, a budget of $160.
Well, here's some numbers. Here's some numbers. Let's look at Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, another Marvel film, the previous one. Friday and Saturday, $107 million.
Yeah.
Just from Friday and Saturday, right?
Okay.
So that's a lot you can amass in that one time.
Right.
Wonder Woman, in its opening 2 days, $73.5 million. I don't know. If it's doing Wonder Woman numbers, it's not worth it. But if it's doing Guardians numbers, which I think it'll be closer to Guardians than Wonder Woman because Marvel is so entrenched in pop culture
and you've got
now.
Tony Stark reprising his role, of course, as Iron Man
That
in
helps.
the film. You've got Michael Keaton coming in. What's his villain's name again? I don't even remember.
The Vulture.
Oh. Well, I didn't come up with it. Also part of the cast.
His character is interesting because it's a reaction to the first Avengers film, where his character has been contracted to clean up all the debris throughout the city from all the battles and stuff. So he's a vulture scavenging debris and stuff. And eventually, what I've read is his company is no longer hired to do this because Tony Stark has a company doing it now, and so he's pissed at Tony and other superheroes who are taking his livelihood, I guess. And so he cobbles together stuff to start taking it back to the man.
Get back at him. Got it. Well, all I know is that Spider-Man's in it. All I know is that Iron Man's in it. And apparently, for those who care, there is an appearance by one Gwyneth Paltrow as Pepper Potts. Hooray.
Oh, that's good.
Aunt May being portrayed by Marissa Tomei.
Ooh.
Donald Glover, also in the cast.
Yeah.
You may know him from various creative projects around the world. And then the artist known as Zendaya. Zendaya?
I think it's Zendaya.
Anyway, she's in the movie as I think she's like supposed to be like the love interest. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. I'm not sure. This movie is scoring 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, and that theme, everything I've heard is good. This is the best Spider-Man movie yet I've heard. I don't know. Spider-Man 2 with Tobey is still a wonderful movie. Great story for villain and hero.
Yeah, it is. I'm hoping that, and here's where my sort of wild card comes in it from the more artistic standpoint. The director is not someone who is widely known in any way, shape, or form. John Watts is the director of this film. His previous director credits include The Kevin Bacon 2015 crime thriller, which I'm sure no one saw, that was known as Cop Car.
Never even heard of it.
Yeah, thank goodness. And then he directed a horror film in 2014 known as Clown.
What Marvel does, though, is they don't focus on names as the directors. They focus on
The story.
the story. And kind of there's such a Supreme Court at Marvel, Kevin Feige leading the group, that they kind of make sure the quality controls on all their films, that they kind of look and feel similar in tone.
The Court of Tribunals, if you will.
There you go.
That's a nice way to think of them. But yeah, this new feller, John Watson, this is going to be really his coming out party for his sort of Hollywood blockbusters. If he hits here, there's maybe paydays for him in the future. That's all I can say about that.
You know, it occurs to me, too, the success of this film probably is in line with Tom Holland's passion for the character, too. If you're online, you've probably seen these videos of him doing flips everywhere and trying to be Spider-Man. It reminds me of Hugh Jackman's commitment to Logan.
Wolverine, yes.
He's just become that character and loves the character, and you can tell that. Despite popcorn, film stuff, he likes that character and wants to portray him, do him justice. So I think Tom Holland is probably really responsible for that 93% there, along with everyone else at Marvel. But yeah.
John DeFore of The Hollywood Reporter, in his review, said where Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker displayed a believable 21st century angst, we return largely to the character's wide-eyed roots with Tom Holland, whose performance is thoroughly winning, even when the script apparently isn't helping him.
Ooh, I don't like that. One positive thing that I can say is that the film doesn't get bogged down in building franchises like the previous two ones. I think that was the biggest downfall.
Yeah, I mean,
Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Right, both of those movies were given plenty of chances to succeed. So it's only a matter of it, in my mind, just getting out from under the shadow of the previous two, being successful, and hopefully not telling the folks who don't know about how he appeared in Civil War and don't know how this is not related in any way, shape, or form to the previous two franchises and their quasi-successes and muddled failures. This, I want it to have its own unique spin. I know the story hasn't changed. I know it's still
spin. A web any size catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes a Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man.
Okay, that was great. I liked it. I enjoyed that. That was nice. Thank you. Kudos. High five.
Swap.
Yep. So yeah, nothing's changed. It's still a teenager who gets bit by a spider and becomes a super dude. But this time he has help from Tony Stark. I think that's the biggest thing. You try to understand that. And he's like, I don't want to take a Spanish quiz. I want to save the world.
The interesting thing is they've shown too much. TV spots and trailers, they've shown too much in those. So I've been trying to avoid watching any more of them.
I know.
But because I'm going to see this 10:30 on Friday.
You've already bought tickets?
AM. No, but that's when I'm going.
Oh, okay.
But with this film, it looks like it's completely connected to his experiences overseas in Civil War.
Okay.
And I think there's a cameo of Captain America in it, too, and some kind of, like, do good video message for kids in detention or something. I don't know. But I think it's going to be completely tied to the MCU, but not reliant on it and not trying to build stories for the MCU. It's like deviating off the side of the MCU and then building its own pocket world, if that makes sense.
I feel like it does. So let's throw some numbers just to compare. In terms of opening weekend, I guess we can compare to, because this is going to be like that, like we said, kind of first steps and background stories to the comic book and superhero character that we have previously seen. Comparing it to something like Ant-Man, which was far more obscure, Over under 60 million.
For the whole weekend?
Yeah, the whole weekend.
Way over.
Yeah, because that's not it.
Way over.
Because again, Ant-Man was just so obscure that it didn't have a
Yeah.
lot of previous background knowledge to help itself.
And even for the geeks like that were excited about it,
Right.
became disillusioned because of all the behind the scenes stuff with
Yeah.
Edgar Wright
That's
being,
true.
being removed from it as director.
That's unfortunate. Friday's Ant-Man did 22.6, Saturday's 19.4, Sunday 15.1, and I cannot recall that one being a Friday, Saturday, Sunday selection when it was available 2 years ago.
I wasn't playing. I didn't even know this existed then.
That's okay.
With all the other Spider-Mans, let's quickly take a trip down memory lane. Spider-Man 1 opened.
The Tobey Maguire Spider-Man one, yes?
Yes,
okay,
yes.
Okay, sorry.
Just Spider-Man. 114.8 million.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad. Spider-Man 2, 88.15 million.
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man 3, 151
Whoa.
million. Yeah. Unfortunately, that one is the best box office earner.
Wow.
Well, opening. The
Right.
top so far is still Spider-Man, the original one, at 403 million total gross,
Good
lifetime
heavens.
gross. The Amazing Spider-Man, the first Andrew Garfield, is 62 million, and Amazing Spider-Man number 2 is 91 million. So we're all over the place. We can't see a trend here, really, in my opinion.
Yeah, then that's kind of the whole weekend of Spider-Man's. This isn't. I mean, for right now.
And the movie landscape is so different now. With it being included with Marvel, it's got that brand.
Yeah.
Which people have come to trust as, if anything, I'm going to have a really fun time at the theater.
Correct. 15 years now, we've had Sony try to keep pushing Spider-Man.
And who wouldn't? Spider-Man's an awesome IP.
I agree.
But now, the Andrew Garfield had to sell itself. And so did the Tobey Maguire, but people wanted to see Spider-Man for the first time, so they're like, yes, this is awesome. So they went in droves to the first Spider-Man. But now, this Spider-Man has proof of concept already laid out in Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's already won people over to Tom Holland as Spider-Man.
Correct.
And kind of we got a peek into that world. So I don't know. I think this is going to do very well. I think skepticism is not even existent because we have proof of concept in Tom Holland already.
The real anomaly to all this is that when Spider-Man 2, I believe, did make its way into the theaters, I want to say that when it did come out, that particular franchise, I think it was like a Wednesday release into a very long 4th of July weekend. I remember that being just a very extended sort of thing. Where on the
that was
yeah, that was the Tobey Maguire 2, Spider-Man 2.
That came out on June 30th.
Yeah, and then the 4th was on that Sunday, I remember.
Oh, okay.
Because the Wednesday night it came out at like 40 mil. Saturday it only did like 33.5. The Friday night only did 32.4. So it's a strange sort of peak on the Saturday, and the Friday kind of suffered. It's
another one of those opening and midweek kind of hurting the numbers.
Right. Spider-Man 3, 59.8 on a Friday. Saturday, 51.3. Sunday, 40 million. That was Spider-Man 3. And then the Garfield starts. The Amazing Spider-Man did better on Saturday than it did on the Friday, although it opened on a Monday, July the 2nd.
That's weird.
Yeah, it opened on a Monday night. July 3rd, July 4th combined only 58 million. The whole weekend, its first true opening weekend, it didn't do better than 25 million any individual day.
Wow.
Like, we're looking somewhere, I think it was officially their opening weekend for that, and that's why it looks like it suffered so badly. It was only $62 million. Because the previous 3 days, it had already done that. Like, that was the weird anomaly with The Amazing Spider-Man is the end, that 4th of July period. What day does it truly fall into, and so on and so forth.
What's interesting is the life of Spider-Man in the theaters mirrors the comics. Because in comics, you get a writer and an artist pairing on a book
Yes.
for a year and a half, and then a new team comes in, and it's continuing the story, but with a different tone, with a different purpose, with everything changes, and that's how you get some awesome runs, some crap runs.
Yep.
I think we're seeing this, and does the public have the patience to sit through these changes?
I don't know.
I hope so.
You would want to think they can. We're all grown-ups here for the most part. I think I can exclude myself from that one. No, I'm kidding. I'm an adult.
Well, we're both talking about Spider-Man movies for about 10 minutes. So grown-up, well, I have a daughter, but anyway, shall we give our over-under for the weekend here?
We'll break it down by day because that would be nice. That would be the smart and polite thing to do since that's what's available for offering. I'll start with Friday, and I will set that at yeesh. Oof. Is this so tricky because I feel like there's going to be some strange malaise. It's like, another different Spider-Man? What is happening? Why do I need another one?
That's why Iron Man's there.
But yes, this has a lot more support from the Marvel Cinematic Universe than the previous 5 iterations ever had. So I think that helps it. For a Friday number, I will say 52.5.
70.
Why? You can't. No way. For a single day, I think for the whole of the weekend, I will say this. For the whole of the weekend, I will say it goes 135 million for the whole weekend. But again, we're starting that at 52.5 on just the Friday. I'm thinking that's like, I'm going to say the Friday ceiling is probably going to be at that 70 mark. That's the high mark. That what I would like for it to be like at its very highest is that Friday 70 million. That's what I'm expecting. Saturday, I'm going to then put the over-under at around 50 million because it's either historically strongly done as good with about $1 million to $2 million up or below number from that Friday preview, from that Friday debut. I think the only thing that scares me with the Friday number is, do they fold the Thursday night midnight showings and the 7 p.m. showings as part of that Friday number, or does that truly show as Thursday numbers?
That's probably Thursday, yeah, separate.
It's kind of annoying.
Well, I'm still going with a very strong Friday, and I don't know, I'm probably going in an average of 50 on all 3 days, with, of course, Friday being stronger, I believe.
Mm-hmm. So tough.
I'm going for 150 million weekend.
For the whole weekend? Yeah, again, I'm with you. I think it's going to hit somewhere between 135 and 150 million. That's a very good expected opening weekend. I think it's on the generous end to get to 150 million, and I know that there's a lot of personal want and drive for that to be a reality. I understand.
Well, here's the thing. In the comic world, and I know the movie and the comic worlds are different, but in terms of buying, The Amazing Spider-Man, that book, whether good or bad, people buy it automatically because it's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
There's something inextricably relatable about Spider-Man. Not anymore in the books. But for the movies, I think it's going to retain that relatability, the nostalgia.
Right.
People like us, we grew up watching Spider-Man movies. And yeah, maybe we had a fallow year here or two with Andrew Garfield, and we were disappointed. But that hurt more because we want Spider-Man to be so good. Maybe I can't think straight because my spidey senses are tingling so hard. But
that could be. Who knows?
Yeah.
So I'll say for Friday, I'll set it at 52.5. Saturday 50, and then that Sunday date is going to be a more sharper. Yeah, it's sharper. You're right. Sorry, English major. It's sharper. Grammar girl doesn't have to come after me now. I don't think. Maybe.
No, I think she can stick with biopic.
Biopic, right. Sunday, I expect it to do no better than maybe 30. and a half.
Yeah.
35.
Or not, at least not drop below that.
No, I think if that shows on the Sunday number to be below 35 million, then something with the scuttlebutt on social media to drive it away went terribly awry, and the movie itself just did not meet expectations for fans.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't want that.
Well, let's look back at Guardians 2. Friday 56 million, Saturday 51 million, Sunday 39 million. If it does something similar to that, which I think it's going to do a little bit more than that, I think we're going to have a good weekend.
Man, I hope for your sake you do.
So
You've been anticipating this movie almost as much as like welcoming your daughter into the world. That's how I feel like this is like the anticipation level.
Well, I haven't been thinking about it for 9 months, but
you've been thinking about it for longer?
I personally love Spider-Man.
So you've been thinking about this for longer.
Oh, no.
Okay, good answer.
Yeah. Oh, man, I love my daughter. But Spider-Man's right under there, with my wife and God, and, Star Trek is up there, too. Anyway, this is not about me. This is about our box office.
Yes.
So, are we done with the Spider-Man talk? Do we move on to the Big Sick?
I think we can start moving into the Big Sick. And again, this is I'm not saying I'm on the level of you, sir, in terms of your fandom and love of the franchise, because it doesn't exist. But in terms of the romantic comedy trying to make a return to relevance in the box offices as a whole, I feel
smart.
To maybe create new life into that genre. I think The Big Sick does a very good job of that. Directed by Michael Showalter, who you know more as a comedic presence on Wet Hot American Summer. Yes, that's where you first saw him.
Okay.
Also, he was in TV series The State and many, many other creative. He's just a funny dude, and he's from New Jersey.
Yay, Garden State.
Yeah.
That governor this weekend.
Oh no, let's not. That's not why we're here.
Oh, Chris Christie.
Yeah, Beachgate. If you don't know about Beachgate, go Google it.
The first time I heard about it, I saw a photoshopped image of him in his beach chair sitting in the Oval Office in front of Trump. I was like, "What is going on?" I didn't know it was Photoshop. I was like, "Is this a thing? Like, what's happening?"
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's foolish.
Judd Apatow is producer of The Big Sick, so that means there's going to be some quality name behind this.
There's definitely a lot of quality that came around this movie, and I'm glad we, as a wide audience, have the opportunity to see it. Again, Kumail Nanjiani, Holly Hunter, Zoe Kazan, and Ray Romano starring in the film that is produced by Judd and directed by Michael Showalter. It's actually based off the real-life marriage of Kumail and his wife, Emily Gordon. So Emily has, I'm not sure if you could say she continues to suffer, but has this sort of had a life-threatening illness that she's been fighting with for years on end, and I think she's finally gotten better over it. But it's also the story of how Kumail's family, who is traditionally Pakistani Muslim, they're not happy with him dating a white American. And I think both of them existentially are dealing with separate types of illness. One, a physical debilitating illness for Kumail's wife. Kumail himself dealing with the illness of his family not being more open and receptive to modern love, if anything. I think that's the best way to describe the movie.
This sounds really cool. Yeah. Sounds great. Sounds like I would watch it on my TV.
Oh, for sure.
Spending movie money on it, but looks good.
It was at Sundance back in January. Amazon picked it up and got distribution rights, outbidding actually Sony and Fox Searchlight.
Wow.
$12 million acquisition deal made it the second largest in the history of Sundance. Lionsgate is partnering with Amazon to release it, so that's why you have like 1,000 names on the studio list. It started as a limited run about 2 weeks ago. It's going to go wide this week and even wider next week, but this is our first opportunity to really get a true wide look at the Big Six in the opening weekend for us in the Fantasy Movie League. So with it currently already having done, I would say, with a 1.6 million overall, 2.2 gross thus far. And by the way, its budget was, I think only like 2. No, I think its budget was like 5. I think Kamal mentioned in the Nerdist podcast episode that he and his wife appear in. Another shameless drop for another podcast that if you find time.
I think they had their own nerd podcast for a while too.
They did. He did
about video games.
He and his wife Emily, they did a podcast for a little while about video gaming. Now the name reminds me. Oh gosh. Oh no. Oh, the Indoor Kids.
That's right. Yeah. Moving on.
Anyway.
Numbers. What do you think? So the Beguiled. Well, I'm looking at these small films. So we have the Beguiled. We have the Book of Henry, Megan Levy, Beatrice at Dinner. But I don't think this compares to those.
No.
I think this is gonna. But it's not gonna clean up this weekend because of Spider-Man.
Right. I think at a cost per screen, you look at it, and it's only $28. So this has the very good potential to be your bonus performer for this weekend. Unless the Sunday number for Spider-Man really goes well above and beyond what their $339 per screen is prescribing it at. So I am going to say for Big Sick, despite its $28 per screen price, I'm going to say over-under for this is somewhere around $6 million.
I was thinking the same exact number. Very good.
Great minds think alike, good comrade.
The Big Six.
No. That's a different. That's the Big Hero 6.
Oh yeah, great movie.
Oh. Hello, I am Baymax. I actually
furry baby.
I actually have my superheroed out Baymax on my desk.
Oh yes, I have my Spock on my dresser.
There you go.
We gotta get you a Han Solo.
That makes sense. That would be cool. One day. When I'm not worrying about debt snowballs.
That is a reference to our show, Spock and Solo.
Yeah, Spock and Solo.
On the Completing the Shelf channel. Check it out. Only 2 episodes so far, but maybe we'll do a Spider-Man Homecoming review episode.
That would be nice. That would be fun. That means I have to go to the movies this weekend. Oh, darn. So let's go run through what our available options here in Week 6 are with a price per screen for each film. The bottom of the barrel gives you Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and I hate saying that as a bottom of the barrel film, but it's been out for 2 months now.
Yeah, we can move on.
If you haven't seen it yet, and you're going to see it in a theater, don't pay $10 to see it. Go find the cheap budget cinema near you where you can probably pay like $4 or $5 to see it.
You know, my theater this Friday, it has 6 screens, the same number of screens as Wonder Woman, which surprised me. I'm like, well, why?
Ugh.
It's doing well, I guess, at my theater. So Guardians, then Pirates at $13.
Correct. Mummy is at $14. All 3 of those, I would leave them as dead in the water unless you don't want to leave a screen blank, and that's what you choose to do. Beguiled at $21. Big Sick, as we mentioned, potential bonus performer play at $28 a screen.
8 Big Sicks. Just do that. 8 Big Sick.
How about no? 47 meters down, $30 a screen. The House, $46 a screen. I don't expect that to make a triumphant bounce back from its $8.7 million level.
That would be a losing bet.
Whoa. Crash.
Speaking of crashing,
Cars 3, $47 a screen. Also crashing, Transformers, $70 a screen. That is probably my Cousin Rachel of the week. Please avoid that at all costs, or we will call you out because you didn't listen to us. And you're just downloading and not listening. Shame on you. Wonder Woman, $104. That's hoping it's going to go into double digits some way, shape, or form. And I'm going to set like over under there at like 8.5.
10. Oh, okay.
So you're going over. There you go. That answers that question. Baby Driver, $143. Again, adding its price per screen based on a bonus performer recognition potentially. I think it's going to, because it came out at 21. Again, historically, 50 to 65% drop. At its worst, you're getting it at 13.65. I think that's the right price per screen. I'm not going to disagree with it. I just hope it doesn't fall to that 65% drop where you're only getting it at 13.6 million. I would like for it to sit where Wonder Woman is right now at 15.7 million. So, all things considered, that's about a yeesh. Even at 15.7 million, it's not truly like dreadful.
No. And you know what? It might take a hit this week and then go up or maintain.
That's true.
After the initial
my maths are wrong.
Splash of Spider-Man.
I did my maths wrong. I'm sorry. If it drops 65% from 21, you're only getting it for 7.35 million. Hello. Whoops.
I don't think it's going that low.
No. Because it did, I think it's gotten such good pub. I think, I'm hoping 15.5 to 16 is its sort of nice, cushy value play.
Sure.
Moving on, Sunday, Spider-Man, $339. Despicable Me 3, $404. And I think that's
too much.
See, this is weird because we looked at how Despicable Me did this weekend, and you compare that to its sort of previous weekend debuts, and within the Despicable Me franchise, it has completely underwhelmed, with the exception of the first ever Despicable Me, which for its opening weekend only did $56 million.
No one knew what it was. So
no. They just saw little yellow things going banana and ripping off the Beach Boys, and they said, what the hell is going on? I think that one did not suffer from being opening midweek. This was a true Friday selection, and I think, you mentioned, people just didn't know about it. And then people caught wind of it, and Saturdays turned out better than Fridays for it long term. So I could see, worst case scenario, I'm expecting it to be like in the $35 million range.
Okay.
That's worst case
that
scenario.
Makes sense to me. Yeah.
So the more realistic number is probably around 47.5.
Okay.
Which at 400 a screen, you're not going to complain.
No, definitely not. Won't be too despicable.
You're just on Pun City, like Pun Cloud 9. I don't know. You're getting into your dad mode. Nothing wrong with that.
Being a teacher, I've developed puns like crazy, and the kids hate it, but then they actually love it too.
They learn to love it. They learn to they hate to love it, but they do, and then they love to hate it. I guess I don't know how that balances out.
Yeah. Well, then we have Spider-Man on Saturday at 448.
Saturday 448. Friday 501 per screen. Again, your budget is $1,000. Shall I start with you, sir? What is your projected box office for week 6 for your layout?
So last week I was like, I want to free myself up to just put one thing in a bunch of my screens, and I did that with Wonder Woman. Didn't quite help. I should have done some Baby Driver. So maybe I might go back to my original instincts and not do that and just get as much Spider-Man in my Cineplex as possible without breaking the bank.
The Friday-Sunday combo was probably one of the better ways to do that. I think
that's true.
And I feel like so often now, opening weekends, Saturdays don't perform as well as Fridays, obvi. But because if you go the Saturday-Sunday route, and you decide you want to take both of those days versus Friday, Sunday, or what have you, if you do go the Saturday, Sunday route, you're down to $213 over 6 screens, which, again, since I'm the math person here, I'm supposed to know that it means you only have $35 left to screen. You're handcuffing yourself by trying to choose a Baby Driver within that. You're losing money. Don't do it.
You can't do it.
So, load up on the Big Sick.
You could.
If you're doing the Saturday, Sunday, or Friday, Sunday, I think you might be able to get away with that. And then you have to throw in one of those Dead to Rights plays like The Mummy, Pirates, or Guardians.
Yeah.
And which of the three sucks the least is then the next question. Somehow,
Here's
some
the thing.
way.
If I do Saturday and Friday, then I can only really fill Guardians the rest of the way.
And you hope that, because you don't.
Friday and Saturday do enough. Because that's already $100 million in my prediction.
I don't know if Guardians is going to get you over $1 million though. Do you? That's the thing. This is now the interesting play. Do you leave the screen open and acknowledge that you're taking the $2 million hit by not putting anything up there, or hedge with like $1.5 million at best? Because I don't even think it's going to do that. Because at least
Guardians is going to bring in what?
Because it did $1.5 million
maybe $1 million
last week.
Maybe $1 million now.
I don't even think that. No.
Think?
I think you have a better option of finding $1 million with either The Mummy or Pirates, because both of those came over 2.5 last week, and even Guardians at 3 last week dropped less than a full 50%, and still was in the 1.5 range. So The Mummy might somehow, some way, just be enough to play it out and hope it doesn't hurt you.
Yeah, but then I can't do a Friday and Saturday with The Mummy. The only way to do Friday and Saturday with Spider-Man is Guardians all the way. I tried Pirates. I tried, Big Sick.
Yeah, you can only get one Big Sick in. Yeesh.
Yeah.
I would not do Friday, Saturday. I would rather do either Friday, Sunday, or Saturday, Sunday. Because at least with Saturday, Sunday, by doing that, you still have the opportunity to maybe try the one Big Sick, the one Baby Driver, and then Big Sick. And yeesh, I don't want to leave out Baby Driver. Dang it.
I know, I don't want to either. But Baby Driver, brought $21 million last week. It's not going to do that again. And Big Sick is not going to do big numbers. That's good. It might be the bonus performer, sure. But if I get Friday and Saturday and make 100,000 or 100 million just with those two movies, and then have just icing on top with some Guardians, I might not win our league, but I might do pretty well.
Yeah. All right. That's your screens. I'll let you do that.
But I don't know. I really want to do double Spider-Man because, my love for him has already been stated.
I'm willing to take a risk in not taking 2 Spider-Mans this week, in the sense that I would like to really flex still the Baby Drivers and Big Six of the world, so I'm going to just hold on to Friday.
Yeah.
2 babies, 5 Big Six.
It's a good call. Wow, that's a good call. You've had 2 weeks in a row selecting the bonus performer.
So I don't want everyone to keep following me. This is what I hope will do well here in that particular week.
Someone's got to lose and someone has to win, and I'm happy to play either role.
Oh, well, there you go.
As long as we have good movies in the outcome.
What was our trivia question last week? Let's move to that segment. Do you remember what the trivia question was last week? You have that down?
What was the top 3 highest grossing Steve Carell films that do not include Despicable Me franchise?
Yes, the 3 highest grossing Steve Carell films that have not come courtesy of the Despicable Me franchise. It's a great question. Once again, we were overwhelmed by the number of responses that came into our Twitter, Facebook, and every other feed. So thank you again for entering, all 0 of you. To answer the trivia question, in terms of the top 3 grossing films that did not come from the Despicable Me franchise.
Crazy Stupid Love?
No.
Oh.
It did not. That actually, in terms of... now, repeat the trivia question just so we make sure we're all on the same page.
Highest grossing non-Despicable Me franchise Steve Carell film.
Okay. Is that for... and that was just lifetime gross, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
then these numbers are correct. Crazy Stupid Love does not even make the top 10 of his overall acting credits.
Anchorman.
Believe it or not, based off its box office, Anchorman also does not fall into the top 10.
All right, give them to me.
At number 3 is, and I can't believe this is number 3, Dr. Seuss's Horton Hears a Who.
Oh, my.
Again, he appears, he is listed in the credits of the film. I believe he's the mayor of the town, if I'm not mistaken. I did not see it, so I'm just going off of what the statistics are showing us, folks. I can't say it won an Oscar and at any point in its illustrious film life. But yes, Steve Carell, I believe, plays the mayor of Whoville, Ned McDodd, alongside Jim Carrey, who, of course, voiced Horton.
I see.
So that is how that movie was able to make so much of the monies. So Steve Carell playing the mayor, getting him to, overall, that was his 5th highest lifetime gross at $154.5 million. Again, as an actor, built in the cast of the film. Fair enough.
Good for him.
At number 2, once again, another animated film. This one, DreamWorks' 2006 animated film, Over the Hedge.
Okay.
Yep. Exactly. We're still rolling on such a...
I never saw that. I wanted to see that,
You know, it was one of those that I'm like, wait, it's not Disney. I don't care.
True.
He voiced the character of Hammy the squirrel. I believe Hammy was a squirrel. I hope he was a squirrel. That makes more sense if it was. Also
pig.
in that film, Bruce Willis, Gary Shandling, William Shatner, Wanda Sykes, and Nick Nolte.
Wait, the Shat's in it? Oh, I gotta see it.
Now you gotta see it. It surprised me that you hadn't heard it and or seen of it, but that's okay. That was number 2. Over the Hedge did make $155 million in lifetime gross. Again, Steve Carell appearing in the film back in 2006. But even before then, in the year 2003, Memorial Day weekend that year, came a film where once again Steve Carell appeared alongside Jim Carrey. That film is known as Bruce Almighty.
Oh, my. Okay.
Again, he was not the star of the film. He simply appeared in the film. And he was, in fact, the news anchor known as Evan Baxter. And his credit in the movie was Stephen Carell. So that's why it might have thrown all of you off, I'm sure.
When they were frantically searching last week.
Yes, I'm sure you were. So, yeah.
Evan Almighty was pretty good.
Yep.
I'm sure that doesn't appear on the list.
Follow-up movie, Evan Almighty, gets on the list at number 9 overall. His top 10 grossing lifetime films, Date Night, Evan Almighty, The 40-Year-Old Virgin. Again, this is simply off box office sales, not DVD sales or Blu-ray sales or VHS, whatever. This is solely off tickets purchased at the box office. So Date Night 10, Evan Almighty 9, 40-Year-Old Virgin 8, Anchorman 2 7, Get Smart 6, Dr. Seuss's Horton Hears a Who comes in at number 5. Over the Hedge 4, Bruce Almighty 3, and then Despicable Me 1 comes in at number 2. Despicable Me 2 comes in at number 1. That's not confusing because it's just numbers, right? But yeah, to answer your question, Crazy Stupid Love only 13, Anchorman 12, and with the opening weekend of Despicable Me 3, that he is so far at 11th with that alone.
I see. You know, I think my favorite of those films was Date Night. There was a time when Danielle and I, we would just watch that continuously, like every single weekend. Whenever anyone was in town, we would show that movie. It was a good one.
We are the Triple Horns.
Yes.
We are the Triple Horns. Yes, that's us. And then
anyway, shall we go into our trivia for this week? Do you have one on hand, or I have one?
Ooh. Let's have Chris give us all a trivia
Chris's
question.
trivia.
Chris's logical trivia.
Can you name
No, I can't.
All right, over. Show's over. Can you name the television show from which I get all the music for this podcast? All the music comes from one TV show. What is it? And that's the question for this week. Well, this will make you spend some time listening to some music out there. Anyway, can we go into our weekly recommends?
There was a book written by a historically famous comedian back in 2010. This man is truly multi-talented in what he has done since he's come into his heyday as an actor, comedian, way back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. He came to public notice as a writer for the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour. He was a frequent guest on The Tonight Show. He is 71 years old and originally from the great city of Waco, Texas. He graduated from the University of California, Los Angeles. That's Los Angeles for all those playing along at home.
Oh, thank you for translating.
In 2004, Comedy Central ranked him as the 6th greatest stand-up comic of all time. And he's really known for offbeat, absurdist, wild and crazy comedy, if you will. But his acting resume is also quite extensive. He eventually moved into, once he left the acting limelight, being a hugely successful bluegrass musician. And he's a wildly talented banjo player. And you kind of got a hint of that during his early sort of forays with his stand-up. But he wrote a book in 2010. The book is titled An Object of Beauty. And at one point, it was a New York Times bestseller. So it got a great review from them, too. And you hear the name of who I'm going to tell you. Wrote this.
A lot of build-up here.
Yeah, I'm building it up because I thought it was a great book, and I unearthed it recently. And I think it's going to surprise folks once they read through it. This is the book written by the one and only Steve Martin.
Oh.
Yeah, Steve Martin has done a lot off the screen as he has kind of on the screen and stage. So
I just saw a trailer for his masterclass. You know, those
yes.
have been going around.
The masterclass commercials, if you will, those paid advertisements on our social medias. Ugh. I'd like to do that, but I don't have money. So how do I do that? I don't know.
And time.
In time. So yeah, he had this sort of real rock star following by the end of the 70s. He would be able to sell out arenas just for his stand-up show before it was being done by like Eddie Murphy or Kevin Hart or anyone like that. Because Richard Pryor was like the guy ahead of him who was filling large venues in that realm, but I don't remember ever him doing arenas per se.
I see.
In 79, he did co-write and star in probably what was still one of my favorite comedy movies of all time, in The Jerk.
My favorite films from him are the Father of the Bride.
Oh, yes, those movies were good. So yeah, he was also in The Jerk. He appeared. I don't even remember. For some reason, I want to say he was on Saturday Night Live for like a minute, but I know he appeared with some Saturday Night Live players in the film The Three Amigos alongside Chevy Chase and Martin Short. That was a good film.
Cool.
Very comedic. But he's just been a very good actor through and through. And he's been doing very good on the bluegrass circuit with the band he plays with. And his albums have sold to like gold status at least for like one or two of them. They're supposed to be very good.
The man loves his banjo.
He does. But he's a wild and crazy guy.
So what was the title of that book again?
An object, because if you have a vowel, it's supposed to be A-N, but if it's a consonant, It's supposed to be A. So it's An Object of Beauty.
Anyway.
This is a 7-year-old book. I unearthed it, reread it. Very good stuff.
Excellent. My weekly recommend. Just finished a graphic novel called Dark Knight, a true Batman story written by Paul Dini and drawn by Eduardo Riso. Paul Dini, did you watch the animated Batman show back in the 90s?
Was this where the Two-Face character had like super large lips and looked really hideous?
Probably.
Okay, good. Then that's the one I'm referring to as well.
Yeah, it was a long-standing animated show on WB or whatever the channel was called.
Oh gosh, yeah, the WB. Oh Lord.
Yeah.
What was his name?
Paul Dini.
Paul.
Is one of the writers of that show, one of the animators. This is his like little memoir, and it's kind of really dark. It's about this time when he was working there. He gets mugged on the street and really beaten, and he can no longer, for a while, write Batman because in a world where no one swooped down to save him, he couldn't write about someone doing that and saving people.
Oh my gosh, that's dark. That escalated quickly.
It gets to the point where he was winning Emmys and he's cutting himself with his Emmy awards and stuff like that.
Oh my gosh.
Just it's dealing with the trauma, psychological trauma of being a victim, right? But eventually Batman and even the villains talk to him throughout this whole process, helping him deal with it. And you can see that he's opened his veins on the page here. It's a really moving book. I've never read a graphic novel in one sitting, and I did this. It was like almost 200 pages, and boom,
oh my
breezed
gosh.
through it. Couldn't stop. To go on a lighter note, I also really love the film.
Okay, thank goodness. I'm just like,
You gotta look at all the facets of the human condition, the good and the bad. And here's some good. Moana from Disney.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I
everyone.
can't get this movie out of my head. It's so good.
Literally,
my
you're
daughter
welcome.
loves watching it, even though she's a little tiny baby at 6 months old. But I put it on when I'm giving her a bottle, and it's fun times. The music's good.
Oh yeah.
Really focused narrative, focused growth. Journeys for the characters. Fun music, beautiful animation, of course. You expect that from Disney. So I highly recommend. It's on Netflix. If you haven't seen Moana, check that out. And then go get it on your shelf. Because
Absolutely.
I think it's a buy-worthy film. That's kind of, excuse me, it's kind of how I rate things with my wife. Like, she's like, oh, what do you think about that movie? It's buy-worthy.
There you go.
Yeah, that means I'll watch it a couple of times a year.
Agreed. I still think one of my favorite scenes is the discovery, or not really discovery on their part. They're run into by what appears to initially be wonderfully cute coconuts, affectionately known as the Kakamora, who then turn very dark on them and very evil and try to steal what they are attempting to deliver back to their destination. As
The Heart of Tafiti.
Yes, The Heart of Tafiti. You can watch that now on Netflix. I think it's now available to stream there, so that's awesome.
And after you watch that, all we have to say is, you're welcome.
That's one of my favorite songs still. Like, I inappropriately use that sort of phrase from time to time, like, you're welcome, like when I am wonderfully providing insight on, the world.
I don't know how far we'll go with all of our puns
No.
before we end the episode, but I think we should
gosh.
probably wrap it up.
Yeah, these puns have not been shiny. So for Chris, I am Alex. We thank you so much for listening to yet another wonderful episode of the Fantasy Movie League Chatter.
Spider-Man!
Yeah, Spider-Man. Spider-Man is going to do what a spider can this week. We ask you to make
Which
sure
is
you
make all the money.
make all of the monies. Friday, noon Eastern is your deadline. Make sure you get your selections in by that date. And again, the trivia question from Chris, where does all the music from this podcast come from? Which TV show?
You can tweet us, seriously, at Shelf Nerds or at Alex_Salvo.
Yes, or at Spock and Solo. We'll accept responses to all three of those Twitter handles. You can respond on the Facebook pages where we post these copiously. Just somebody make proof that they listened this far into the podcast to answer a trivia question. That's all we ask.
And you guys are our marketing budget because we don't have any. So share, get the word out about FML Chatter. If anything, to get the word out about Fantasy Movie League.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty
I
fun.
did tweet about it last week, and the Twitter team at Fantasy Movie League did like it, but
that's right.
That's progress. One day we'll end up on their page as maybe a unofficial
featured
source of news and insight, or stupidity. I don't know which. More insight and news than stupidity. You're right.
Spider-Man.
Go see Spider-Man in theaters Friday, July 7th. For Chris, I am Alex. We will see you all at the movies.
And thank you.